What's going on, guys? Welcome to this video in which I'm gonna show you how to scale a clothing brand's Google ad account successfully, right? Successfully is the key word here. And so what I'm gonna attempt to do is take you under the hood of some clothing brands Google ad account, show you essentially the different campaigns that we run that are successful, in which you can also implement within your apparel or your clothing brand's Google ads campaign. So we're going to show you the different campaigns that we set up and how we set up those different campaigns and what makes those campaigns so successful. We're going to show you like the different asset groups and different creatives and like a whole bunch of strategy essentially on how we scale Google Ads account for clothing brand, right? So really stick around, grab a cup of coffee, grab some energy drink, because I'm gonna do my best to attempt to provide you with as much value as possible, right? So before we jump into this, my name is Frank Kenny and I own a performance marketing agency, Lion Media. And again, the goal is to provide you with as much value in this specific video and show you the strategies and the tactics that we use to scale Google Ad account, right? So let's jump into it. Right, so as I'm sharing my screen over here, right, so as you can see from the different campaigns that we have set up, right, not a whole lot, because this is a relatively smaller brand, right? We only spend around anywhere between 10 to 12K a month in Google ad spend, right? So with that, it kind of limits the different campaigns that we can run, right? But we understand that and we know exactly how we're gonna focus this account, right? So this is an apparel brand, right? And with apparel brand, they typically have multiple categories of product that they sell, multiple SKUs, like with different margins and things like that, right? And so we're gonna take that into account and how we set up our Google's ad account, right? And so with always, when you're building out a Google's ad account, depending on the category, and again, this is for e-commerce brand, okay? Depending on the category, when you bring out Google's ad account, you always want to have a branded campaign, right? So a branded campaign is essentially you're bidding for your own keyword, right? So you're bidding for your own keyword. So when people are searching you up on Google, you have an ad that appears there, and essentially it makes it very easy for them to see you, essentially, right? So that's the number one thing that you want to do, right? And as you look at this account, so that's the first thing that we did, and we'll look at the performance of that campaign here in just a moment, right? So, and if you can see that, across this account, we have like multiple different category of ad that we've ran in the past, right? But the only one really that's still running right now is, there's a few that are still running right now, but like the one that is actually getting the conversion is this branded ad over here, right? And we could go in here and look at the different keywords that we've used in this specific account, right? And we can also see like the ad that is used in this specific account. Right, again, so this is specifically focused on the brand itself, right? So that when other competitors are bidding for keywords, for your own keywords, you have the dominance over that, right? Because your competitors can't do that. As you start to gain prominence, as you start to grow, your competitors will see that, right? And then they'll start trying to steal your traffic, right? And so this is a way to prevent that from happening, right? And this is essentially like the setup of the ad, right? So you have like specific keywords over here, right, associated with the brand and like the value proposition, right? And then you also have some description, and then you can also add some images over here, right? So when an ad does appear, it will appear with an image of what that brand specifically is, right? And then obviously you also have the business logo over here too as well, right? And then you have some side link extension, right? And so really that's what makes a successful ad for a branded campaign, right? Now, enough of that. Let's go back and let's look at the acquisition campaign, which this campaign is essentially focused on trying to get new customers into the door, right? Trying to get new customers into your website, essentially to purchase your product and becomes fan of the brand, right? And so that's exactly what we're going to look at over here. Now, the thing with Google is, shopping campaign is essentially where it's at, right? And so the campaign tab that you want to build for that is Performance Max. Performance Max, I would say, is still relatively new. There's a lot of improvement and updates upon this campaign, but Performance Max is essentially, think about it this way. Google took this product and they put all of the inventory that they own, right? Such as the Discovery Network, Display, YouTube, the search, Gmail, and they have added all of that into one campaign type, right? And there's a methodology behind that, right? And the goal is they want to help you be as successful as possible, right? And they understood that, okay, just showing your ads on the shopping network, it's, on the shopping network, it's it's efficient, but there's other ways to be more efficient. We can make this more efficient. So they decided to, okay, cool, we're gonna take all the products that we own and then we're gonna put it all into this one specific campaign. So that's essentially saying that whenever you deploy this campaign, there's a few things that you have to provide Google. You have to provide it with images, assets. You have to provide it with videos, right? And you have to provide it with all those different type of things so that it can use all of that information, like the assets, the videos, and display it across all of the products that they own, all of the inventory that they own, right? And so this campaign has been very successful since we've deployed it, and we'll look at the stats here in just a moment. Right? So that's just to give you a little bit of insight upon what the Performance Max campaign is. Again, it uses all of Google's inventory and then it puts your ads around all this different entry, and try to push your ads to people that has the highest likelihood of purchasing, right? Now, we're gonna walk you through some of this campaign, and it's very important with Google and really with any platform, but specifically here we're talking about Google, is that you always wanna segment out your campaign per category that you own, i.e. if you're selling like tops, right, or like pants or accessories, right, you want to build specific campaigns, specific ad groups for those different categories. And I'm going to show you here in just a moment. As you can see how we've labeled these two campaigns. So we have like tees, right, Performance Max t-shirts, and then we have like dresses as well, right? Some people, they will take dresses, t-shirts, accessories, and put it all in one campaign. It's not that effective because then it's not really relevant to the consumer that you're pushing out, because within that product catalog, it's going to be showing t-shirts, it's going to be showing pants, it's going to be showing like different accessories, and like the copy is not really going to be relevant to that, right? So you have to focus, meaning the product's catalog has to be appropriate with the copy and to the audience that it's being targeted to, okay? And again, we'll dive into more details here. So, but the first thing that I want to look at is this Performance Max campaign. The first one that is named Tees, right? So essentially this is t-shirt, right? So in the last 30 days, we spent $2,243 in this specific campaign, right? And we can look the return on ad spend on that, which is 455%, right? So that's essentially saying that for every dollar that we spend in advertising, we got $4.55 back, right? This is very efficient, right? And the average CPC on this one is $1.29, right? And we can look at the conversion. So we got about like 36 conversion from this, like 36 purchases, right? And this is when we look at the AOV, which is the average order value of this product, it's around $278. So this is not a cheap product, right? It's not like your $50, $60, or even $20 product that you'll buy, right? So this is a luxurious brand because the products is about like they go from 100 up, right? So if you look at specifically again, like the AOV on this one is $273. Right now, and then what's even more is that when you look at the cost per conversion, it's $62. Right? So like that's really good, depending on what like your business margin is and everything like that. So let's break apart this campaign. Let's look at the asset groups. So what makes this campaign really successful? As I mentioned, we only have an asset group focused on this specific campaign. Right now, let's look at the setup. We'll look at the audience here in just a little bit. Let's look at the setup. So within the Performance Max, you have you're limited to like kind of like the different headlines that you can use, right? So we have just a few over here, and then we have just a few description over here, and then we have just a few long headlines over here, and then we have just a few description. And with the Performance Max, you can add up to 20 images within an asset group, right? And you really want to maximize that as much as possible if you have the creatives for it. Right, so you provide as much creative as possible, and it'll kind of show you how that would display on the different inventory. As I mentioned, it displays your ad on different inventory such as YouTube, such as Gmail, right, as you can see over here, and such as search, as you can see over here, and it will also display it on the display network, as you see over here, and on the discovery network. Right, so your ad is going to be displayed across all those different inventory, and of course, you always want to make sure that you have your site link extension, right? So that's how we've set up the specific campaign. Let's go back. Let's look at the audience signals. Right, let's look at the audience signals for the specific. So we're looking at tees. So if you go to asset group, back to the asset groups, and we look at the audience signals, right? So right now, there's in terms of like what we're targeting. So let's break this down. So the number one thing is like the more data that you have on a campaign, meaning the more data that is being driven to your website and people taking multiple actions, and Google just uses that data to try to find more people like it, right? So this is essentially like audience signals. Performance Max doesn't use any keywords. You can't like target specific keywords. It's based upon the different audience signals that you're using to direct the campaign. So first of all, we have our customer list for the specific brand, and then we also have like all the people that have converted and purchased from us, right? So Google will use that information to try and find more people like it, right? And so that's why this is so successful, right? And in addition to that, you can also choose, if you wanted to, people that are in the market for your specific product. Right, so you can type in people that you can select people that are in the market for clothing brand, people that are in the market for like different accessories, tall women's clothing, and etc. right? So you can further define this, but we left this kind of simple. We just wanted to focus on the data the data of our customers, and we use that as the audience signals for the specific campaign, right? And so that's how we set up the specific campaign, and that's part of what makes this campaign really successful, outside of just the brand itself too as well, that they have a good product. Right? They have a good product and they are successful. Now what else? So the next thing I want to look at is, so let's look at just kind of look at this brand here for a moment. Right. So this is a women's specific brand, right? They're focused on women, right? And I think they have a very good position in the market, because when we look at this, they are sustainable, and they're a sustainable brand. So good for you, good for the earth, right? So in this case, this is focused around a niche group of people, which is women who care about like sustainability and who care about the earth, right? And quite frankly, I think a lot of the reason why a lot of clothing brands are that successful, because they try to serve the whole market. Number one thing is that they always say, like, when you try to serve everybody in the market, you serve nobody. First, you have to like diversify and pick a group of market that you want to serve. And this clothing brand did that very successfully, right? And so that's one of the things that makes them successful. And then they have a lot of like press too as well, right? So they have a lot of credibility, right? And the other thing that I would recommend is, like, we put this specific, all the presses at the very top, like right below the fold. So then as people view the website, boom, already they have the credibility, right? Because you have to think about it, it's like psychology. So when people visit your website, the first thing that they're curious about is like, is this a credible brand? Is this a credible brand? That's the first thing that they think about. And just by having as seen in Forbes, Marie Claire, and People, and Vogue, and number one is like, oh, cool, that satisfies that need that individual has initially coming to the website. Oh, this is a very prominent, this is a very credible brand, right? And so that covers that part. And then the next thing that they're going to think about, is this relevant to me? Does this match the type of style that I would want to wear, right? And again, because yes, if you're somebody that cares about sustainability and you care about the earth, this is put in the ad copy, right? So that's going to be one of the first things, that's going to be one of the value proposition, right? This is good for you if you care about the earth, if you care about the earth, and if you care about sustainability. Right? Boom. So this is relevant to me. So I care about the earth. I care about sustainability. So like, this is the type of products that I want to purchase, right? And then if you just look at the models, right? If you just look at the models, do these models resemble someone that I kind of want to look like in terms of the style? Do they resemble a style that I want to, put, or like in terms of do they resemble a style that I want to wear, right? And so in that case, yes, it does, right? So it already checks up all this specific, all those specific points. And then the next thing obviously is going to be like the price point of the specific product, right? And so if we go to shop now, again, this is like a luxurious brand. So like the products are not going to be cheap. They're going to be relatively expensive, right? So this is not targeted to everybody. This care about people that can afford the specific product, right? And that care about sustainability and they care about the earth, right? And that's a very small subset of people in the market, right? And I'll say, again, the products are like super good, right? But outside of that, that's what makes this brand really successful. Okay, they have multiple products, multiple sizes, and just the website looks really clean, right? And they have like multiple products. And again, that's what makes this website really successful. Let's look at another brand. So the next brand that we are going to look at, the next brand that, actually, before I do that, let me go back to this brand. That's actually one last thing that I wanted to look at before we move on to the next one. So if we go back, because there's one additional campaign that I wanted to look at, right? Because I mentioned, because we looked at the tees, right? So now let's look at the dresses, right? So if we look at the dresses, let's look at the asset group. Wait for that to load. It's taking a sweet time. Okay, cool. right? So dresses for the fall. So let's look at the setup of this specific asset group. Again, the thing that you'll notice that it's just focused now on dresses. It's not focused on dresses and tops and whatever, right? It's just focused on dresses, right? And so the product catalog is going to be just focused, it's going to be displaying dresses and nothing else, right? So that's the first thing that we have to think about and that we have to consider, right? And so even the copy is going to be around like the dresses as well, right? And so it just kind of goes back to what I'm saying is that when you're building out specific asset groups and even campaign, you gotta focus it around one specific category, and that just will help your campaign be more successful. That will help the overall signal of Google to kind of find the people that you're out there searching for, or you're searching for your customers, right? All right, cool. That's the last thing that I wanted to mention. So let's go ahead and look at another brand. So this is another clothing brand. So just kind of let's look at the last 30 days here and just kind of look at the stats. So within the last 30 days, how much you spent and what the return on ad spend essentially is. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 different campaigns in this specific ad account, Google ad account. Network is really slow. Okay, cool. While that loads up, but right now what it's looking, while that loads up, so right now what it's looking at, it was month to date, right? So when we're just looking at the cost month to date, so you see that we spent around $4,475.59. Okay, there you go. Now we're at the 30 day, right? From the March 19th to April 17th. And we spent $6,789. So this is a relatively small budget for an apparel company, for an apparel brand, but yet the results are still pretty good, right? And I mean, it's when you look at just like the ROAS, it's through the roof. But I will say one thing, that is that the ROAS is thrown off by this specific campaign over here, right? Because when you see it has over a 4,000 return on ad spend. So it just kind of skews the overall data. But when we do look at specific campaigns, like this specific campaign over here has a 425% return on ad spend. This specific campaign over here has a 400% return on ad spend. And then this one has a 387% return on ad spend. And this one is just, again, it kind of throws off the data because it's like just extremely good, right? And the reason why is that this is a branded campaign, right? So this brand is, over the years, it's been quite prominent, and it's a well-known brand. So there's a lot of searches on Google for this specific brand based upon like the other type of advertising that they're doing, such as like paid social, which is like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and even CTV too as well, right? So there's a lot of searches for this specific brand, right? And so Google really helps is just capturing that demand that is already being generated through other social platforms, right? So when you just look at the CPC for this, it's like 20 cents per click, which is really good, right? Which is really good for click on Google, because Google, the clicks, especially for apparel brand, they're not cheap, right? And so what I want to do is just kind of break down some of these campaigns, right? So we'll look at the bottom first. It's the same thing that I mentioned before, is that they're segmented according to the category, right? We're not doing bottoms, we're not doing tops, we're not doing accessories, we're not doing shoes. It's just bottoms, right? And so when that is the case, we can again focus our ad copy around the bottom, about like bottoms, and even just like the product SKU, like the product catalog, it's just going to be bottoms. It's not going to be showing anything else, right? Again, it makes it very direct to who we're targeting, right? Okay. This thing is loading. It's being very slow right now. Should be here in a couple seconds. Cool. Right, so as you can see in this specific campaign, we've tested quite a lot of different asset groups, right? So different asset groups. So like this one is pants, and we have another asset group which is just a promotion that we ran, right? And then we have another one which is just like a retargeting one, using retargeting data. And then we had another one which is just focused on like jeans, right? So each asset group is focused on something completely different, right? And I say this, and the reason why I'm really emphasizing this is because a lot of time, especially when we audit Google Ad account, when I audit Google Ad account, you'll see previous agencies that have worked on the account, see like they have one campaign that just has everything in it. They have everything in that specific campaign. Even the asset groups has everything. The asset groups is focused on like essentially all the products that the brand carries, right? So there's not really much differentiation. Even when you're writing the copy, it's just like blah, right? It doesn't work as well, right? So that's why I'm really kind of honing this on. You have to segment your asset groups. If not your campaign, then your asset groups according to the different products that the different product category that you carry, right? And when you have different asset groups, it's very important that you give that campaign a sufficient enough budget to be distributed across all the different asset groups that you have within the over here, right? Because if you're doing like 3 different asset groups and you're just doing like $50, even $100, I think that's very small. You know, the other asset groups that you have in here, the other product category that you built in here, they're not going to get as much impressions, right? Because probably one or minimum 2 is going to get most of that specific budget, right? So that's why specifically I like to segment. A lot of times I like to segment by specific campaigns. So that campaign is focused on a specific asset group, spoken of a specific category, and so on and so forth, right? And so again, that's the thing. So we have pants over here, and then if you look at the specific audience signals, right? So like the main thing I want to look at here first is the audience signals that we're targeting, and the audience signals I mentioned is how Google knows who to target, right? So it uses that as a signal to direct the campaign and who to go out in the market and find based upon what you have put within the audience signals for Performance Max. Right, so as soon as this load up, I'm gonna show you that the website of this specific brand in just a moment. But as you can see, this is relatively new, where it says search theme. So essentially, we're inserting keywords in here that Google can also use for audience signals. So we have like tall bottoms, tall pants, tall women's clothing, and 37 inseam pants, 37 inseam pants. So the keywords that we're using in this specific campaign, right, in a specific audience signal, are related to what the specific brand sells, right? And we'll see that in just a moment over here, right? And then outside of that, we also just have audience signals we have customer or data from the brand specific, such as like the customer list. It's very important that we always have in here. And at times we also have like competitors' website that we also have here as audience signals, right? So all this overall just helps out our campaign, just kind of find our potential customers, right? So the last thing that I want to do here is just like, so let's look at this brand, right? As the copy mentioned, so you know, this brand is kind of focused on apparel for like tall women, right? So they have, so we've got tall covered, right? So if you're a tall woman, this brand is for you, right? Because you know the pants are designed for tall women, right? And so the other thing that makes this website really successful is that they have press, right? And they have like just a whole lot of different collections, right? And they have a whole lot of different collections, right? And that's another reason why this brand is like really successful, right? And I mean, just look at the page, right? So when you come over here, this just seems very professional, right? And if you're a tall woman and you see other tall women on the website as well, you're like, oh, they understand me, they get me, right? Based upon the models on the images itself, right? And so obviously, like they have like different like other products such as like jeans, you know, different products essentially, right? And so that's what really makes this brand successful. And yeah, that's essentially it, guys. I hope you guys were able to find some type of value from this video in terms of like if you own a clothing brand, it's different type of things that you want to consider, not only from like the website perspective, but how you're building out your specific ad account. We looked at the Performance Max campaign, which is going to be like your bread and butter. This is where most of your acquisition is going to come from. With Performance Max campaign, there's 2 things that you could do with this one. So it focuses both on prospecting and remarketing. So prospecting and branded campaigns, right? And the other one you can do is that if you can build this specific campaign to be focused just on new customer, which is new customer acquisition, right? And so it's just going to be pushing your brand to people who've never heard about your brand before. You can also set that up in Performance Max campaign, but we always start with both prospecting and remarketing for Performance Max. And then over time, as we see performance increase in the account, as we see good performance, then we build out a new acquisition only campaign. Guys, again, I hope this video was super helpful to you guys. If you guys have any questions related to what we talked about over here, leave them down in the comments below, and I will speak with you guys soon.